Hey everybody, it's Catherine with Adivai Fig doing another tech video with JF Fabrics. And in this video, we're going to be talking about websites. And particularly I wanted to go through, I get a lot of questions about websites. So I wanted to go through 4 things that I want people to understand about their website. Whether you're building a website or you're trying to improve your current website, these are the things that I feel like if you could understand, you could make better choices and good choices about how you're building that website, how you're building your online brand. So number 1 is understanding when you start to build your website, what do you want your brand to look like and what is your brand? So when I say brand, what I'm referring to is really your voice, your message that you have online. And I like to think of it as your website is like having a storefront on Main Street. So if I was walking down Main Street and there's stores everywhere, that is your storefront, is like your website. I don't do that anymore. I'm not physically there. So I'm walking down Main Street online. And when I see your site, it's like walking into your store. I should see the colors that you use. I should hear the music. Maybe there's smells that even come across, right? Are you selling toys or construction tools or design services? What is it that you're doing? And I should be able to pick up on those vibes pretty quickly. And that's really the same concept you should use on your website. That when I go to your website, I should immediately understand what type of clientele are you going for? Does it resonate with me? I should understand your services very easily, and I should start building that trust. And having consistent branding across not just your website, but having a logo, having colors that you use on any materials that you create on your website, on social media. So Facebook, Instagram is going to be huge because every time I interact with you on any of those different platforms, I'm building trust with you. Right, so you want to kind of understand and have some type of a brand guide or style guide or something that helps define what it is you're actually trying to do. The next thing, and kind of related to this, is your domain name. So when I say domain name, I'm referring to the name of your website. So this would be like a URL. So in my case, my website is adivifig.com. That's the domain name. And when I refer to it, I'm also referring to kind of what is your business called online across other platforms as well. So kind of related to branding, you have your website, so adivifig.com, but are you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram? And what is your handle or username on those other platforms? And can you have consistency again? Now you might say like, well, I'm just going to use my business name. My business name is Awesome Designs. So I'll use awesomedesigns.com and I'll use Awesome Designs on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, but that's a very common name, right? So Awesome Designs probably isn't available. So if you're wanting to make it kind of unique, but still have your business name in there, then maybe you want to come up with something that is, Awesome Designs for you or Awesome Designs right now, and your business name might still be Awesome Designs, but it makes it a little bit unique. So your domain name does not have to perfectly match your business name. Your username on Instagram and Facebook, again, don't have to perfectly match your business name, but it should be related to it, right? I should kind of have the idea that I see why you named it that way. Another example is there's a business, I used to have a business called Digitally Inspired. So the domain name was Get Digitally Inspired, and then across Instagram and Facebook were Get Digitally Inspired. So it was like related to that, and I could make sure I had the same name across all platforms and people understood that it was me and I could build that brand. And then hitting on also that domain name is you can buy that domain name even if you're not ready to build a website. So that way that it's been saved, you bought it. So if you have an idea for a business or you wanted to just reserve a name, maybe you want to reserve your own personal name, like in my case, it's catherinereed.com. You can come into GoDaddy or other similar tools and you can just search it to see if it's available. So for example, I'm going to search adivifig.com on GoDaddy and it will come back and it's going to say it's not available since I already purchased the domain name since that's my company. But you can search any domain name that you want in here. And what's nice, it'll also kind of give you some other ideas. Well, that's not available, but here's maybe some other examples that you could use. So let's jump into the next item, which is really the core of your website, which is what's called platform. How are you building your website? And some people want to jump into starting to build a website on your own, or if you were to hire a designer, it's still important to kind of understand these concepts so that you can have a discussion with them of what the difference is. And there's 2 different ways, well, there's actually 3 different ways I would say of building your website. So to try and simplify it, if you think of a website, your website is made up of files. I mean, literally each web page that you go to is a file, and those files live somewhere. They're stored somewhere, and that is called hosting. So when you have a website, you pay for what's called website hosting, and it's where your website files actually live. Now, hosting is a little bit different than the platform that you use to build your site. So I might host my website with one company. These would be like Bluehost is an example, SiteGround is an example. Those are hosting companies, but I can build my site on other tools like WordPress you might have heard of, Drupal you might have heard of, HTML5, things like that. So that's a little bit more complicated. So you have this hosting that you have to set up, and then you have how you're building your website, the platform that you're setting up. Or you have an option where you buy other services where you pay more of a subscription cost, like if you've heard of Wix and Squarespace. They simplify it because they actually build it together. They will allow you to build a website in Wix or Squarespace, and it includes the hosting and it includes the platform. All right, so option one is you have what's called hosting, and then you have your platform. So you pay for hosting, then you get like WordPress is one of the most common by far platforms that you use. So you have WordPress and you set up your hosting and you have a website. I'm not going to go into too much technical details there because most likely I would recommend hiring a designer who would help you build that for you. Or you move into, you say, no, I don't want to do that. I want it to be simpler. Then you pay a monthly cost, a little bit higher than the hosting cost. And then you actually get to get more of a drag and drop website builder that allows you to eliminate all that more technical stuff, eliminate the hosting, and just pay a flat fee and build a website. And you get templates and things like that to build the website. Now, in general, I would say that most website builders and developers that, like myself, or that I interact with a lot, really prefer WordPress and hosting separately because WordPress is a lot more powerful, but there is a steeper learning curve. And so you get a lot more power. You can integrate it with more things. The SEO is really good on it. And so that's kind of the more technical route. But if you say, no, I want to have more of like simplicity and be able to go in and make edits more myself, then you'll probably be looking at more of a website builder such as Wix. This is Squarespace. This is Wix, and WordPress.com. And so I don't want that to be confusing because we have WordPress.com, which is a website builder, and then we have WordPress.org, which is a website platform. It actually allows you to have a lot more hands-on onto how you're building your website. So let's jump over here with Wix and Squarespace. Wix and Squarespace and WordPress.com are, like I mentioned, website builders that you really could create an account and at least start with potentially building your own site. Now, you could get in there, there's some templates, you click and drag, and you can get a basic site going. And then they have integrations that you can do with setting up like maybe a newsletter form or something that you could put what's called a lead magnet, which allows you to put a link to maybe like an ebook or a guide, and then people could download that guide from your website, and then you could get that in exchange for their email or something like that. So you can do a lot with these types of websites. And what I want to point out though is that there's still a learning curve in how to design it. How do you make it look pretty? How do you actually set up the functionality of it? And a lot of times there's still a benefit of working with a website designer, but the overall maintenance cost tends to be a little bit lower with Wix and Squarespace. And you being able to go in and actually make some basic edits is going to be a little bit easier than going into something like WordPress that has a little bit higher of a learning curve, like I mentioned before. So anyway, so that's kind of the general idea. And I mentioned that there was 3 different ways to build a website. So you have this idea of hosting your site somewhere and then having, a platform that you're building it on, a little bit more technical. The idea of using a website builder where it's a little bit less technical, but still has a lot of design components to it. And the third way is really coding from scratch, which we rarely do anymore. But you can basically just, what we did, 10, 20, 15 years ago is just build websites completely from scratch using HTML and uploading it. And I don't recommend that because it's definitely a lot more technical. And most website developers, like I mentioned, really stick usually with having a hosting company and then some type of a platform like WordPress.org. And then lastly, I wanted to hit on is how do you use your website to actually grow? Like what should be on your website when you're building it? So for yourself, if you're building it, if you're working with a designer, a couple things to point out is one, integrating it with social media. Again, this is your storefront. So any projects that you're working on, any accounts that you have, if you have a YouTube video page or if you have social media on Instagram or Facebook, you should have links to all those things on your website. You can also set it up where you can have a feed on your website, which means anytime you post something on Instagram, it automatically shows your most recent post on your website. The next thing is, really having it clear what your services are and having a clear call to action. So if I come into your store, again, storefront example, what do you want me to do? If I'm just browsing, I'm looking around, cool, I walk out. Is there something that there's a call to action? Is there a poster on the wall? Is there a end cap where maybe you're highlighting the products that are on sale? So when I come to your website, is there what I mentioned before was lead magnet, is there a big button, a guide that says like, hey, download the 10 steps to remodeling your bathroom? Hey, join the newsletter for XYZ. Is there something that you can give me, a call to action that I can do? And when I download that guide or when I join the newsletter, I'm giving you my email. And now you have my email to follow up with and actually start building a relationship. And we're not in the sales process yet. What we're in is just building value, just building a relationship with people who see you online and visit you. And now you can actually start building that trust, that value, and eventually see if your services make sense for them. And then lastly, you can do a ton with websites on other types of products. So, we've talked a lot about having traditional design services where maybe you're local and you're going to someone's home and you're offering design services. But if you have a website, can you utilize it for hosting events, like online events, like webinars? Can you promote having a calendar that people can schedule you for a virtual consultation? Can you have digital products like maybe you want to have a course or an ebook or something like that where people can actually buy things from your website and then download it right then, and you don't have to kind of physically do anything. They're just going to download it and it's automatically going to be sent to them. So there's a lot of potential that you can do, with your website if it's built right, if it's designed well. So those are the core things I wanted you to kind of understand, the idea of like having that branding. You have consistent branding, you have your domain name and usernames that you use across all these different platforms. You understand your website and how it's built, whether you're going to use a website builder or actually use hosting and have your website files, which I recommend maybe talking to a designer if you don't have prior background in that. And then you utilize your website to the best of its ability, that you actually build value with your visitors. You provide them with information, you give them a call to action so that you can actually give them your services. If you have any questions on this, please feel free to reach out. Again, my website is adavifig.com. You can email me directly. My email is Catherine@adavifig.com, and I'm happy to talk further. Thanks so much.